let's say that we made a bet and we had put up $100, and I told you that I could flip a coin 200 times in a row and get heads. Then I went on to flip it and got heads 200 times in a row. Would you pay up? I don't think anybody would actually pay up. They would know for sure that something was wrong, that somehow this coin was rigged or I was cheating some kind of way. There's no way that you would think that I flipped this coin 200 times in a row and got heads 200 times in a row. But then what if I was to tell you, you know what? There's billions and billions of people that have flipped coins over and over, 200 times. And I just happened to be that person that flipped it 200 times and got heads every time. Because there's so many other people flipping coins, I just happened to be the one that did it 200 times and got heads. Would you accept that excuse? I don't think anybody would. But this is actually the exact same excuse that so-called scientists, I call pseudoscientists, say about the probability of life coming about on Earth, or even Earth itself coming about. The truth is, the chances of even a human cell coming about by chance, randomly, is astronomically low. And it's really an impossibility. In a book called Signature in the Cell by Dr. Stephen Meyer from Cambridge, he was a philosopher in science and also a geophysicist. And in his book, he really broke down the probability of a human cell coming about randomly. And this is a lot smaller than the probability of someone flipping a coin 200 times and getting heads every time. And as I said, if you saw me flip this coin 200 times and get heads every time, the first thing you're going to think is that this is rigged, and that's going to be the most probable conclusion. You're not going to pay somebody $100 if they flip the coin 200 times. You're going to know that something was rigged. You're going to know that. You're not going to think it. And this is what Dr. Stephen Meyer has to say about the probability of a human cell being created by chance. He says, if we assume that a minimally complex cell needs at least 250 proteins, on average 150 amino acids, and that the possibility of producing just one such protein is 1 in 10 to the 164th power, as calculated above, then the probability of producing all the necessary proteins needed to service a minimally complex cell is 1 in 10 to the 164th multiplied by itself 250 times, or 1 in 10 to the 41,000th power. That is 1 in 10 with 41,000 zeros behind it. That's the chances of this, So, just think of how crazy that is. If you think it's crazy for someone to flip a coin 200 times, think how crazy the odds are for this happening. It's way, way smaller. But they have the exact same excuse. Oh, well, there's countless planets out there, so, we just happen to be on the right one. But if you wouldn't accept that excuse from me, why would you accept that excuse from them? He goes on to say, did you catch that? The odds of a minimally complex cell forming randomly by chance is 1 in 10 to the 41,000th power. Dr. Meyer finishes with this. This kind of number allows a great amount of quibbling about the accuracy of various estimates without altering the conclusion. The probability of producing the proteins necessary to build a minimally complex cell, or the genetic information necessary to produce these proteins by chance, is unimaginably small. You can't even imagine how small this is. It's really a scientific impossibility. Once you get to such low probability, this is really what is called impossible. What we've come to see by looking at the chances of these proteins folding into a way to where they can be functional, and all these amino acids coming about, is not possible in a random way. As a matter of fact, when we think about random or we think about by chance, these type of things really don't even make sense in a philosophical way. When you really think about it, if somebody says, I won the lotto by chance. Did you really win the lotto by chance? Did chance go and buy the lotto ticket? No. See, even when something happens by chance, there's still intentionality behind it. Because in order for you to win the lotto, you, a person, a mind, has to go and buy a lotto ticket and then write down the numbers and then go turn it in. So it's not completely by chance. It's still a mind at work. Same thing with anything coming about. Chance is not a thing. It's not something tangible. So things don't really just come about by chance. It's an excuse, and it's really an irrational philosophical view of the origin of things. You know, not only is it a very small chance of anything like a living cell coming to being on its own, it's also a very, very small chance for things like the prophecies given in Isaiah 700 years before Jesus came. You know, in Isaiah 53, we are told about the suffering servant who would die for the sins of the world. And also in Psalm 22, we are given prophecy, even details about casting lots for the clothes of Jesus. These type of things were detailed. This is even before crucifixion was a way of killing criminals. Also prophecy about Jesus being buried in the tomb of a rich man, also being killed along with criminals. There's so many different prophecies that have come to pass, and not only the ones with Jesus, there's so many more in the Bible that somebody would have to once again say, well, this is just a coincidence, but it looks a lot more like it's rigged. You know, this is also something that I've seen in my own life, and I believe if anybody is really paying attention to the things that seem like they're coincidences, and they see how much it really happens in their life, maybe near-death experiences, or maybe the way so many things in your life have led up to a certain thing, and how all these things combine to create who you are, and how you hear certain things at a certain time and think things at a certain times, and have what you think are deja vus. When you really start paying attention to these type of things, I think you'll understand that really this thing we call life is not some random event, but it's rigged, and there's somebody tinkering with every single person's life to make certain things happen, and even have you right here, right now, listening to this video. You know, I know that God has created the world in a way to where you can choose. We can look at the world and come to different conclusions. You know, some people can look at the world and say, oh, it looks millions of years old. Another person can look at it and say, it just looks miraculous. It looks like it could have been made right away. You can look at the Bible and you can make sense out of the world, or you can listen to secular scientists and make sense out of the world. We're able to choose. And really, when it comes down to it, this is a moral choice. It's a moral choice. Do you want there to be a God? If you do, he's there. He's not hiding from you. But if you would like to cover him and bury him, you know, you can also do that. You can find people that will lie to you and tell you that this all came about by chance. You know, it's real funny to me when I hear people say, oh, there's no evidence for God, as if we could like look into a telescope and all of a sudden we're going to see him wave, hey, here I am, you know, or we can dig in the ground and find some kind of rock or something. Oh, this is it. We found it. This shows us God, you know. But when we really think about it, there is a lot of evidence for God. And one of them is the human cell, just life itself. The complex information that is in DNA and that is in the cell is proof for intelligence. This is what we see in life. We see complex things made by minds. This world is infinitely more complex than anything we've ever created. And that points to an infinitely more intelligent mind. You know, there's two verses that really come into mind whenever I think about those who deny God. And this is right here in Romans 1:21 through 22. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. Something to think about.